Welcome to the first video from the UX pattern series, where we analyze useful, unique, and popular user experience patterns. You will gain a deep understanding of those UX solutions so that when it's time to design, you'll know which one to select and how to apply it. UX patterns are an important area in the four-pillar system for learning UX: learning the tools, learning the patterns, designing features, and designing products. Today we talk about the command palette. It is a UX pattern used in many products across industries, from developer tools to planning software. It provides a quick and easy way for people to search for and execute the commands in the application. We will analyze it as a UX pattern, its elements, what to pay attention to when designing one, and what are the common myths and misconceptions. The command palette is a design pattern that provides a searchable list of commands in a pop-up window. Users can simply search for commands by typing in a few letters of its name. The command palette is commonly accessible via a keyboard shortcut. Usually it's something like Command-Shift-P or Command-K. The command palette UX pattern usually consists of the following elements: opening the palette, keyboard shortcut or access point. Command palette trigger can be visible in the UI in the form of search bar or a button, or it can be completely hidden so that people need to learn it from the documentation or tutorials. The usual shortcuts I came across are Command-K or Command-Shift-P. Search box. It allows users to search for commands by typing in a few letters of a command's name. Command list. A list of available commands in a command palette window. Usually this list includes the most common operations, but sometimes it is possible to access all the functionality of the application via command palette. The list can be filtered and sorted based on the user's search query. Many command palettes display the recently used commands to make the workflow even faster. They also show the shortcuts associated with particular commands, so in the future, users can execute them without going through the menus. Visual feedback. After executing a command, it is important to let the user know that something has changed. In many cases, it is obvious because of the changes in the interface, but if it's not obvious, it's important to use a highlight, selection, or even a toast notification to let them know. Now let's take a look at some examples to see how all of those elements are implemented in different products. Let's start with VS Code. It is an open source code editor, one of the most popular ones. Even before opening the command palette, we can see hints about different shortcuts that we can use, including Command-Shift-P for all commands. When I open it, I see a searchable list with the recently used commands on top. I can navigate through it or search for the command that I'm looking for. Note that on the right, we can see keyboard shortcuts associated with some of the commands. The interesting point here is that if I remove the greater than sign from the search box, the command palette turns into regular search and I can navigate to files, lines, and symbols. If I put the sign back, I'm back in the command palette context and I can search for commands. It's a really clever way of merging those two functionalities together. Let's move on to the next tool, Figma. Figma is a design tool I'm sure all of you are very familiar with. I haven't noticed any hints in the interface about the command palette. We can only access it via the shortcut. So the shortcut is Command-P. And this command palette is really comprehensive because you can search through menus, commands, and plugins. At the top, you can see the recently used commands, and I can also use the fuzzy search to look for commands. At the top, it gives fairly good propositions, but as we go through the list, it's a little bit confusing because matches are not exact. After applying the command, it doesn't really give any visual feedback or a particular notification. I'm guessing they made this decision because otherwise it would be annoying for power users to every time see the notification, especially that majority of effects will be visible in the interface anyways. Also, the command palette disappears after executing a command. Next, we have Notion and Notion AI, and it is a very interesting example because we have two command palettes that we can access in this tool. As per hint, we can press / to access the regular command palette that Notion has been using for years for editing and adding elements, or we can press spacebar to access the AI-related command palette that has only AI commands. Let's analyze the first palette. There are many options here that we can search through. They are also grouped by category, like building blocks, databases, inline, embeds, etc. They've also decided to add a mini version of an AI command palette here. Interestingly, we can also access this command palette by clicking on the plus button next to the row. For the AI command palette, we need to press spacebar, and now we have access to all the commands that are related to AI. They are also grouped, like generate from page, edit, draft, etc. In this command palette, we also have access to recently used commands, but they are this time placed at the bottom of the menu. When we start typing, we can either search for commands or generate a free-form input for the AI, and this is taking this command palette pattern one step further for this particular AI use case. And the last example is Type.ai. It's an AI-powered document editor. It's a fairly new product and they're making a lot of improvements with every single release. I really like it for writing articles and video scripts. The whole idea is that you can start with an AI-generated draft of a document and then refine it using AI commands. The command palette is clearly visible in the UI as a button. You can also access it via keyboard shortcut Command K. You can see the hint about it in the tooltip. If you click on it, you can see the searchable list of commands. I think it's great for discoverability and learning the tool. You can clearly see what you can do with the text. There are two improvements that I would consider here that I would like to share with you for the sake of analysis. First is when I search for commands, I can get to the point where I can see nothing on the list, but at the same time, there is no information about the state. It's not like in Notion AI, where I can generate a free-form input for the AI. So here we're basically at the dead end, and the improvement here would be to simply show the state of no results in the menu when I get to this point. Secondly, I'd like to come back to Commands button. I love the fact that it's clearly visible in the interface without any secret shortcuts that we need to know. It could be even better if instead of using the command palette icon inside of the button, we would put the shortcut there so that people can discover it without the need for hovering and seeing the tooltip. Until recently, the command palette was a UX pattern that we've seen mostly in complex tools for professionals like IDEs for developers. Nowadays, as products become more and more complex and people become more and more familiar with technology, the command palette becomes a solution that is valid for multiple use cases because it offers certain advantages that makes it elegant and useful. Productivity and efficiency. By providing quick access to all the commands and functions, the command palette allows users to perform the same tasks with fewer keystrokes or clicks. It's especially important for power users who rely on keyboard shortcuts and really care about efficiency. Flexibility. The command palette can be used in a wide variety of products, no matter their feature set and complexity. It is a single point of entry for all the functionalities that otherwise would need to take up space and real estate in a UI, in traditional menus and toolbars, or only be accessible for the users who navigate to a certain location or know the shortcut. Basically, the command palette shortens the path for the users and allows them to skip the linear information architecture. Discoverability. Providing a searchable list of all available commands helps people discover the functionalities and features that they wouldn't know about otherwise. It is especially important for infrequent or new users who are just learning the product and they may not be aware of all the features that the product has. The command palette, as wonderful as it is, should be used only for certain types of products that have users that actually need it. We need to recognize that command palette is a very specific UX pattern that's not really popular yet and it's not universal, so it needs to be used with consideration. I recommend using the command palette for products that have a large number of features and functionalities. If a product has a lot of options and commands, it may be difficult for people to remember where they are located. Also, if you want to display all of them in the interface, it may lead to cluttered UI and take up a lot of real estate. The command palette is a clean and quick way for people to access those commands, and a nice way for us to keep the product tidy and not cluttered and intimidating. Power users, people who use the product frequently and for important tasks focus on efficiency. They may prefer to use keyboard shortcuts or alternative methods of input. The command palette can be a really powerful tool for them. A complex navigation structure. If a product has multiple layers of navigation, it can be difficult for people to navigate to certain menus or screens. The command palette can provide a quick way to jump into the functionality that they need. Now let's talk about what to pay attention to when designing a command palette. First, focus on frequently used commands. This rule applies on two levels. General, when it comes to choosing the commands for command palette, you can include all the functionalities, but you can choose to display the most popular ones before the search for anything. And it also applies on per user level, so you need to show the recently used commands to improve the productivity even more. 2. Keep it simple. Avoid cluttering the interface with too many commands and options. If you need to display a long list, group commands by category. 3. Make it easy to access. A secret keyboard shortcut is usually not a way to go. Hint about the command palette in the UI. At the end of the day, if no one knows about it, no one's going to use it. 4. Provide an effective search functionality. Quick and accurate search results are key to command palette success. If search results are inaccurate or slow, people may get discouraged and abandon the command palette altogether. And 5. Provide feedback on command execution. Let the user know if the command was executed successfully or if there was an error. You can do it by providing visual cues, highlights, changing the background, or even giving a toast notification. The worst thing to do is to keep the user guessing. In summary, the command palette is a powerful tool that can improve the user experience and productivity if executed properly. If you're interested in learning more about other UX patterns, I have more videos coming soon from this series. Click the subscribe button to not miss out on them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video very soon.